Before I begin this unbelievable story, make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to read will not only shock you but also inspire you in ways you never expected, and trust me, you don't want to miss the powerful lesson hidden in this tale of pain, courage, and justice. The story begins with a 12-year-old girl named Amara, a bright, sweet, black girl with an unshakable smile despite the unimaginable storm she was facing. Stage 3 cancer that had left her weak, bald from chemotherapy, and often too tired to even hold a pencil in class, but still determined to keep learning and to stay in school because she believed education was her weapon against despair, though she had no idea that she would soon need another kind of weapon altogether when the bullies at her school decided to make her their target. Amara lived with her mother, a kind-hearted nurse, and her father, Marcus, who most people in the neighborhood thought was just a quiet man working some government job, when in reality Marcus was an active-duty Navy SEAL who had spent years in classified missions across the globe, carrying secrets in his heart and scars on his body that nobody could see, and the one thing that gave him strength through all of it was the love he had for his daughter, whom he always told, "You are stronger than you know," not realizing how quickly she would need to prove it, for the bullies at her school were not ordinary mean kids but a clique of entitled, spoiled children led by Brianna, the daughter of a wealthy local businessman who believed her family's money gave her the right to look down on others, and she found Amara's illness the perfect excuse to mock her, calling her baldy, sick girl, and even whispering in the hallways that cancer was contagious, making other kids laugh nervously even though deep down they felt bad, but no one had the courage to stand up to Brianna because her father donated heavily to the school and the teachers turned a blind eye to her cruelty. It all started small, like snickering when Amara raised her hand, or leaving mean notes on her desk, but soon it escalated to tripping her in the hall, pulling off her hat in front of the entire cafeteria to reveal her bald head, and even recording videos of her crying to share on social media, where they captioned it with things like, "The Dying Girl Show," and Amara tried to be strong, remembering her father's words, but every night she cried herself to sleep, praying silently for strength, not knowing her prayers were about to be answered in the most unexpected way because Marcus, her father, would soon learn about the bullying in a way that would ignite the fire of a warrior who had fought terrorists and insurgents but would now face the ugliest enemies of all, cruel children and corrupt adults who protected them. One afternoon after school, Amara came home with a split lip and a torn backpack, and when her mother asked what happened, Amara broke down and confessed everything, sobbing into her father's chest as Marcus held her close, his face unreadable but his eyes burning with a rage so controlled it was terrifying, because Marcus was trained never to lash out emotionally but to calculate, observe, and strike with precision, and he promised Amara in a low, steady voice, "No one will ever hurt you again." That night Marcus didn't sleep. He sat in the living room researching every parent of the bullies, learning their backgrounds, their weaknesses, their routines, because he knew this battle wasn't just about kids being mean. It was about privilege, negligence, and corruption that allowed cruelty to thrive, and the more he discovered, the clearer it became that this was bigger than Amara. It was about a system that allowed bullies like Brianna to destroy lives while adults excused it as kids being kids. So Marcus crafted a plan, a mission more personal than any he had ever undertaken, and the very next day he went to the school, not as a father begging for mercy but as a man prepared to expose every lie. The principal, a nervous man named Mr. Dalton, tried to brush him off by saying, "We'll handle it internally, Mr. Johnson," but Marcus leaned in close and whispered in a tone that froze Dalton's blood, "If you don't handle it, I will," and Dalton, sensing the weight behind those words, nodded nervously, though he had no intention of challenging the wealthy parents who funded his school. Meanwhile, Brianna and her gang planned their cruelest stunt yet. During a school assembly, they would push Amara on stage and mock her bald head in front of the entire student body, laughing as they recorded it for TikTok. But what they didn't know was that Marcus had anticipated this, having secretly installed a tiny camera on Amara's backpack that live-streamed everything to his secure laptop. And when the assembly began, Marcus watched from his car outside, fists clenched as he saw Brianna's friends shove Amara onto the stage, microphones catching the cruel taunts, the laughter, the humiliation, and just as Amara felt her knees buckle, Marcus stormed into the auditorium like a shadow descending, his presence so commanding that the room went silent instantly, the laughter dying in throats as he walked down the aisle, his military posture radiating authority, and in one swift motion he picked up his daughter, held her in his arms, and turned to face the bullies with a glare that made even the teachers step back. "Is this what you teach your children?" he boomed, his voice echoing, and the entire auditorium froze, phones still recording, but this time capturing the moment a Navy SEAL father stood up for his daughter. But Marcus wasn't done. Later that night he uploaded the footage from Amara's backpack camera along with clips from the assembly onto a secure server and sent it anonymously to local news outlets, influencers, and child advocacy groups, sparking outrage across the city. And within hours the video went viral, the hashtag Justice for Amara trending worldwide, and suddenly Brianna's father's wealth couldn't shield her cruelty anymore because the world was watching, and people demanded accountability. But the real twist came when Brianna's father tried to intimidate Marcus privately, sending 2 hired men to warn him outside his home, only to discover that threatening a Navy SEAL was the last mistake they would ever make, because Marcus disarmed them in seconds, leaving them trembling on the ground, whispering into their phones, "We can't touch this guy." And from that moment, the balance of power shifted. Brianna's family crumbled under public backlash, losing business contracts, while Mr. Dalton was fired for negligence, and the school board introduced strict anti-bullying measures nationwide inspired by Amara's case. But the most powerful twist was not the downfall of the bullies. It was the rise of Amara, who, despite her illness, stood before cameras and said, "Cancer doesn't make me weak, and bullying doesn't break me. I am strong," her words reaching millions, inspiring children around the world to speak up, while Marcus stood silently behind her, proud not just of his daughter's bravery but of the fact that together they had turned pain into power, cruelty into change, and silence into a roar that no one could ever ignore again.